The eyes of Mario Andretti say it all. Phoenix, Arizona, last Sunday, Mario was leading the Stroh's 150 when the front suspension was damaged in an accident with Gordon Johncock on the front stretch. Darrell Soppy and crew also had to replace the front nose cone. A replay of the accident on lap 134 shows that Johncock gets the worst end of the deal. His car makes hard contact with the inside barrier. Mario was able to limp back to the pits, but the damage was enough to drop him to 12th finishing position. A serious blow to his chances of winning the kart championship. Just 10 laps earlier, a duel between Mario and Tom Sneva was shaping up. These two competitors have battled side by side so many times throughout the 1984 season. But at Phoenix, after Andretti was involved in the incident and Sneva experienced tire trouble, Bobby Rahal took the lead and went on to register his first victory in 1984, his fourth career win. More importantly, it gives Bobby a mathematical chance at the PPG Championship. He's 29 points behind Sneva. Sneva is 5 points behind Andretti, but Mario can wrap up the national championship today. ESPN, now entering its 6th season as your #1 auto racing network, presents Auto Racing 84. The scenery in this area of the United States is absolutely breathtaking. We're about 90 miles south of San Francisco, near Monterey, California, and Laguna Seca Raceway. It's a beautiful day here in Central California. The sun is shining and the temperature is 62 degrees. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins. This is Larry Newber, and this is the next to the last race on the CART PPG IndyCar World Series for 1984. We could crown a national champion this afternoon. Mario Andretti, by winning the pole for this race, has already picked up 1 point and is now 5 ahead of Tom Sneva.
And this is Mario Andretti's type of racetrack. Now, if Andretti can finish in the first couple of positions, you get 20 points for first, 16th per second. It breaks down from there. And if Sneva finishes out of the top 10, it could end here today at Laguna Seca. Mario could become champ.
Well, we also have some new faces that we're going to be seeing in this race. For instance, Bruno Giacomelli, who's in his second race this year, and a newcomer, Mike Thackwell.
Giacomelli, more of the international flavor. He's from Italy, as you might have guessed. He did run in one race earlier this year, the first race at Long Beach, and he met the Patrick Racing Team people at Indianapolis, said, if you never need a driver, give me a call. Then there was Mike Thackwell. Thackwell's had a very interesting career the last 3 years. He's lived all over the world, literally, originally from New Zealand. He's been the Formula 2 champion of the world twice in the last 3 years, and he has what may be the first chair in IndyCar racing right now. At least a lot of people think so. Roger Penske's ride.
Well, let's go down to Gary Lee, who, as per usual on our IndyCar races, will be covering the pit area. Gary?
Well, the much-traveled John Paul Jr. is in his 5th different ride this season. It's the Pravimi Veal number 17 March. He's in it this weekend and again next month at Las Vegas as a reward. Let's go back 1 month to Michigan. The regular driver of this car, Derek Daly, crashed hard against the concrete. The front of the car was severed off his exposed legs as the car headed back toward the concrete wall. John Paul, with no place to go, T-boned Derek. The general consensus was that that crash saved Derek's life because he was headed back to the concrete wall. As a result of that crash, John Paul has been rewarded with the ride today and again next month in car 17.
All right, thank you, Gary. We look forward to your reports on today's race. Well, the Quinn's Cooler 300 from Laguna Seca is being brought to you by Pontiac. Cars built with a feel for the road. Pontiac, we build excitement. And by Budweiser, for all you do, this Bud's for you. And by the Ask For Motor Oil, Pennzoil, protection worth asking for. We'll examine this 1.9-mile road course here at Laguna Seca and bring you the starting lineup when we return to Laguna Seca near Monterey.
It's brand new. It's from Pontiac, and it's called Grand Am. The latest in Pontiac road car technology, Grand Am is a true driver's coupe. That means it's built for drivers who appreciate engineering excellence as well as exciting road machinery. You know who you are. Grand Am, new from Pontiac, only from Pontiac.
We build excitement. Pontiac.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
The Paul Newman Carl Haas Budweiser racing team is pouring it on in the championship racing series, and they're playing to win. This Bud's for you.
We are back at Laguna Seca, and here's an examination of this road course. It's 1.9 miles in length. There are 9 turns, 7 left-handers, and 2 rights. The longest straightaway is 1,600 feet, and the average width of the racetrack is 40 feet. There are a couple of trouble spots. One is the corkscrew at the top of the hill. They go into a sharp right and then drop 21 degrees. And the other problem area is the hairpin. Turn number 9. It's a left-hander at 120 degrees. We have 9 cameras covering the course for you here this afternoon. For a cameraman's eye view of the course, let's first go to cameraman Bob Sloan.
Thanks, Bob. I'm Bob Sloan, camera 2. I'll pick up the cars as they come underneath the bridge down by the pits and carry them down through turns 1, 2, and 3, which is an area of the course called the sweepers, and that's where Tom picks them up.
Hi, I'm Tom Haletic on camera 3. The sweepers is the fastest area of the course because the drivers are going downhill with 5,000 feet of mild left-handers. As they come by me, the speeds will be attaining up to 170 miles an hour.
Hello, I'm Luther Fisher on camera 4. I have to leave Tom that we come into this 90-degree left-hand turn. A lot of cars in the past have trouble here. They'll be in 3rd gear as they head up the hill toward camera 5.
Hello, race fans. I'm John Roche. The director decided to stick me on top of the mountain again this year. But to tell you the truth, I really don't mind. The uphill climb that Luther referred to is like a ski jump. All the driver sees is blue skies. And when he gets to the top, he has to get on the brakes real hard and set up for the dreaded corkscrew.
Hi, I'm Gordy Sager, camera 6. When they get past John, I'll take them through the last stages of the corkscrew. It's pretty hairy. 21-degree downgrade and about 250 feet. They're moving pretty good through here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chuck Mills, camera 1. My coverage begins at the Laguna Seca Bridge, where the drivers make a right-hander and set up for the hairpin. The hairpin is a first gear turn, and then it's time to turn up the boost for the start-finish line.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Good luck to you and all the other cameramen covering this course here this afternoon. And, of course, good luck to the 27 competitors who'll be racing for 300 kilometers. Beautiful day here in Southern California, or actually Central California. The pace cars lead the 27 starters down past the grandstand and the start-finish line. This is the first of 3 warm-up laps that they'll take, and there is the man of the hour, Mario Andretti from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, looking to wrap up the 1984 Kart Driving Championship here this afternoon. Now a look at the starting lineup. As we said, on the pole in the Newman Haas Budweiser Lola, Mario Andretti, car number 3 from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, qualifying at 126.596. Outside row 1, Bobby Rahal from Dublin, Ohio, with the number 5, 711 Red Roof Inns March. Row number 2, Danny Sullivan from Louisville, Kentucky, in the number 30 Domino's Pizza Hot One Lola. Outside of row 2, Jeff Brabham from San Clemente, California, in the number 18 Craco Stereo Wolf System March. In the 3rd row, Al Unser Sr. from Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the number 1 Miller High Life March. And outside of row number 3, Michael Andretti in car number 99, the Electrolux Craco March. In the 4th row, from Brescia, Italy, Bruno Giacomelli in the number 40 Old Milwaukee STP Patrick March. Outside of row number 4 in the Arciero Racing March, car number 11, Pete Halsmer from Anaheim, California. In the 5th row, Roberto Guerrero and number 9, the Master Mechanic March. Outside of row 5, Al Unser Jr. from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Coors Silver Light Bullet. In the 6th row, Mike Thackwell, car 6, the Pennzoil Z7 Special. Outside of row 6, Howdy Holmes and the Jiffy Mixes March. In the 7th row, Ed Pym and the Dubonnet Copenhagen Curve Eagle, number 98. Outside of row 7, Al Holbert, car 21, the CRC Chemicals Red Roof Inns March. In the 8th row, Tom Sneva in the Texaco Star March, car 4, and John Paul Jr., car 17, the Provimi Veal March. In row number 9, Jacques Villeneuve from Quebec, Canada, in the number 76 Canadian Tire March, and Danny Ngaius, number 25, the Interscope Racer. 10th row, car 22, Dick Simon, the Break Free Special. Outside row 10, Jose Legarza in the number 55 Schaefer Machinist Union March. In the 11th row, Scott Brayton in number 37, the Buick Dealers of America March. Outside row 11, Steve Chassis, 56, the Genesee Beer Wagon. 12th row, car 64, John Martin, the Jet Engineering March. Outside row 12, number 82, Jim Crawford in the H&R Racing March. In the 13th row, car 59, Peter Kuhn in the McClay Racing March. Outside row 13, Randy Lewis, car number 34 in the Agpo Weissart Racing March. And all alone in row number 14, car 31, the Hess Racing Eagle, driven by Dick Ferguson.
Bob, I'll tell you, I sense a lot of intensity in today's race. There are the 27 cars that are passing by. We've watched about 8 or 9 rows go by, and there is the man, Tom Sneva, who is part of that intensity of this weekend. The guy who hopes to be champion this year starts in 15th position. And not only are there points at stake, but this is an incredible racetrack. It's very demanding. There are sections of this track that are extremely high speed for road course racing, and some of them have the potential for a great deal of danger. Modify that with the fact that a lot of people, including Tom Sneva, don't necessarily have specific plans for 1985 yet. Everybody wants to look well in the final couple of races of the season to impress all the car owners. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of emotion involved. This is a very important race on the schedule.
The field comes down through turn number 8. This is the area also that they will enter the pit area. The pace car does enter the pit area, and now they brake hard for turn number 9, the hairpin. After they come out of this hairpin, it'll be on the gas, anticipating a start for the Quinn's Cooler 300 from Laguna Seca. They're out of the hairpin, and the green flag waves, and the race is on. Number 1 and turn number 2. Now moving uphill to turn number 3. It's Mario Andretti, followed by Bobby Rahal. At this point on the racetrack, they are climbing steeply uphill, headed for turn number 4. It looks like all the field is proceeding through there nicely. Uphill now to turn 5. And now setting up, braking very hard for the corkscrew. At this point, it's a hard right-hander, and you're headed right downhill, almost standing the car on its nose. Through turn number 6A, they begin to pick up speed now as they come downhill through turn number 7. The field moving through turn number 7 now, and once again braking for the hairpin. And the leader is Mario Andretti. 1 lap is about to be completed as they come down. It is Mario Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, followed by Jeff Brabham and Michael Andretti.
It's 1.9 miles around the race course, but because the speeds are so high, plus the terrain is so interesting, there's so many things to look at, the laps go by incredibly quickly. They just get around here in flash of the eye, it almost seems. Now, Andretti has led, but Rahal, particularly through this section of the racetrack on the last lap, really was challenging him. By the way, in the middle of the pack, Mike Thackwell got a really bad start, and Thackwell lost about 4 or 5 positions. Everybody else is pretty much holding firm about where they started on the grid.
This is Mike Thackwell's very first IndyCar race. He's driving for Roger Penske. We'll keep our eye on him throughout the course of the race. Mario Andretti once again braking for the turn number 9, the hairpin, standing on the gas as he comes out of the corner. Still leading Bobby Rahal, but Rahal is not letting Mario get very far ahead. Rahal with an outstanding performance last weekend at Phoenix on the oval. Yes, yes, Mario Andretti did have a problem while leading, and Rahal did, in a way, inherit the race, but he did a tremendous job. The Crayco cars are running together on the racetrack. Jeff Brabham in car number 18 and Michael Andretti in the blue number 99. They're trying to dice position.
Michael Andretti is really roughing up his teammate. Look at Andretti back and forth, using up all the racetrack. He wants to go. Andretti wants to be let loose. He's running quicker than Jeff at this point in the race, and Andretti is going to work.
Michael Andretti would very much like to register a win in the 1984 season. He has come so close this year with 4 third-place finishes, including last weekend at Phoenix. He finished a very strong third. He was also third at Saint-Air in Quebec, at the Cleveland Grand Prix, and on the Phoenix Oval in the very second race, the first at Phoenix in 1984. Michael Andretti, who now is 22 years of age, having turned 22 just earlier this month.
The Crayco cars continue to go at it, 170, maybe 175 miles an hour. You go through turn 3, you get off of it just a bit, and now you head for a hard left-hander. There is Al Unser Jr., who has been battling on the racetrack with Pete Halsmer. He runs in 5th and 6th. There's Halsmer. Now there are the Crayco cars again. You see Halsmer coming at you, followed by Little Al and then Bruno Giacomelli.
Al Unser Jr. does have a win this year in IndyCar competition, winning the Portland race that ESPN televised live for you earlier this year. And Al Unser Jr. finished second last weekend at Phoenix, and in fact was closing in rapidly. There are the first 3 for you. Danny Sullivan running there in 3rd position, but back in 4th, 5th, and 6th are Jeff Brabham, Michael Andretti, Al Unser Sr. Here is Pete Halsmer.
A couple of early race pit notes. The number 98 of Ed Kim was smoking during the pace lap. They are monitoring that car carefully. He continues to run at speed. That's Al Unser Jr., whom we're watching right now, 7th in the current point standings. And Dick Simon is the first among the competitors to make an unscheduled pit stop. Dick Simon, the oldest driver in the race, pitting early. He's already back out on the course.
This is not necessarily a wide road course, especially in the area just past the start-finish line. And we were quite concerned about everybody getting through in single file at the start of the race. But everybody did, and we're looking good here with 4 laps completed out of 98 that will make up this 300-kilometer race. There are the first 2, Mario Andretti crossing the start-finish line, and right behind him is Bobby Rahal, and then a few car lengths back of Rahal is Danny Sullivan.
And Bob running in 3rd is Sullivan. He was moving up a couple laps ago, and now he seems to be slipping back. So it's Lola, March, and then Lola.
All right, we will be back with more live coverage of the Quinn Coolers 300 from Laguna Seca near Monterey, California in just a moment. Now, Mario Andretti is the leader.
This is a stress test. Rick Mears' 1984 Indy 500 winner and the Pennzoil Penske Indy car had to run at speeds of over 200 miles per hour with the engine hitting over 10,000 RPM. This is a stress test, and this is no picnic for a motor oil. This is where Rick Mears, Indy car champ, tests Pennzoil's quality and high technology to the limit. That's why you want Pennzoil protection in your car. Pennzoil, high technology and quality. Ask for it.
Get a good look at the first Nissan Maxima SE and find a lot of car. An all-new fuel-injected 3-liter V6 engine, track-stable front-wheel drive, electrically adjustable shocks, more performance than you'll ever need. The new Nissan Maxima SE. A car built to perform on the track is a lot of car for the road.
Come alive, come alive. Major motion from Nissan.
It's your Datsun dealer. ESPN, the driving force for all kinds of auto racing. And we want that force to be with you. Buckle up for a ride on the wild side.
Brabham and Michael Andretti are battling for 4th position. There are the first 2, Mario Andretti and Bobby Rahal. Andretti has not been able to shake Bobby Rahal's pursuit here in the early going.
Well, remember, points are the critical item, particularly for Andretti. By the way, you can pick up 1 additional bonus point for leading the most laps, something that Mario has done many times already in 1984. If you he can continue this pace, lead at least half of the race, then he's got a 6-point lead on Seca.
Mario Andretti told us last weekend that he just wanted to finish the race and not particularly win it. But he now says since last week at Phoenix, it's been a very rough week for him.
A week here for me, because obviously, regardless of what the situation was with Gordy and I, still I felt that maybe in retrospect now, I shouldn't have been there. I should have just not trusted him. And yes, I reran that race in my mind at least 300 times, and I would have done it differently.
Is it possible, though, when you're racing for points, you have to be around at the finish, that perhaps you're almost too cautious, and when you're so cautious, you really get out of the old rhythm?
That's what I'm afraid of, and that's exactly what we even talked about it here with the team, that we can't really change our ways too much, because the reason that we're here in this position is because we must have been doing something right. So no use changing the pattern and try to just do something very different. I think it would go against the grain. So again, within reason, I think we just still have to go by all ways and try to win, try to just do the best we can.
Well, that's Mario Andretti on his thoughts regarding winning the National Driving Championship. Now here is a car that has spun at the hairpin. You can see the corner workers trying to get the car off the track. That is Jacques Villeneuve, the young Canadian who won the pole position last weekend at Phoenix. And Jacques was not real competitive all afternoon, although he did finish in 4th position at Phoenix last weekend.
Well, Villeneuve made no contact with any other driver down there. I happened to see that while we were listening to the Mario Andretti interview. So nobody else involved. He was battling with John Paul Jr. and Mike Packwell, and it simply got away under heavy braking going into the hairpin. By the way, we also are getting reports from our radio spotters around the track that there is a problem with Ellenser Jr.'s wing, the rear wing, and the crew has suggested that perhaps he consider coming in. And Bob, you and I have seen this scenario replayed before this year. Little Al, when he's out on the racetrack, he's a race driver, and that means one thing: I stay.
See that any race that you attend. Mario Andretti once again in the hairpin. Now, you'll notice that Jacques Villeneuve's car has been straightened around by the corner workers, but it is still stalled just outside of the hairpin. Andretti crosses the line and completes lap number 11. Now he's beginning to stretch out the interval between himself and Bobby Rahal. Mario Andretti is looking for his 7th win of 1984 here today.
The interval, by the way, now is stretched to almost 4 seconds. There is Al Jr. Now, the problem we are told is with the rear wing. That can be a very dangerous situation, particularly on the high-speed sections of the racetrack where little Al is right now. That is known as turn 3, where he just went through. Coming up underneath the Camel Crow Bridge is a hard left-hander. That's not a hairpin, but it's a quick turn. Now you go uphill. Looks like S's, but actually it shows up on the map as a straight section of the racetrack. Heavy braking right here for that corkscrew. You got a negative camber, then a positive camber. You're going downhill, turning right, turning left. You go through turn 6, turn 7. Kind of a tricky spot, but it neutralizes so many of the things that drivers can do. And somebody is off course there, coming down out of the corkscrew, too far away to tell exactly who it was there on the camera, but he got back onto the speedway and everything is fine.
We saw just a few seconds ago that the drivers will cooperate with each other and point. If there's a faster car approaching them, they will point to which side of the racetrack they want it to go. There's a car getting off course and sliding up into the dust, and in fact making it looks like contact with the dirt bank up there. That is near turn number 2. We'll try to get a better fix on what car that is, but he has made, it looks like, contact with the dirt bank or perhaps the guardrail.
Well, that's the same place where we saw some rabbits get into serious trouble a year ago here, Bob, and it's beginning to look pretty much like Pete Halsmer. Yeah, I see the helmet with the red and yellow stripe on it.
But the good news is that it looks like he's unbuckling and climbing out of that car, so no major injury here to Pete Halsmer. Now, remember that we will not go overall yellow on this course unless there is a major situation. But in this area of the racetrack, they will display local yellows, which means that you cannot pass in this particular portion of the race course. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
Rick Gallus, Allenser Jr. pit area, where apparently the problem is not a wing, it's the tires. The tires may have heated up early right now. It's up to the driver should he make a pit stop.
All right, we'll continue to watch that situation, and we'll continue to watch the developments over in turn number 2, where Pete Halsmer has hit the guardrail and has dropped out of the race, but Pete is out of the car and obviously okay. There's the young man who graduated from Purdue University, now living in Anaheim, California. We'll be back with more from Monterey, California.
Pontiac.
The editors of Road and Track call the Pontiac 6000 STE one of the world's 12 best enthusiast cars. Car and Driver called the Pontiac 6000 STE one of the 10 best cars of 1984. So why did we make it even better for 1985? Just because. The sensational 6000. Only from Pontiac.
We build excitement. Pontiac.
Never fails. The one thing most people overlook about their cars is the belts. You see, after 4 years, they can go any time. And since today's belts don't show wear, even I can't always tell when just by looking. So if your car's over 4 years old, replace the belts. And tell them you want Gates. Now, they've been keeping engines cool for over 60 years, even longer than me. Remember, after 4 years, they can go any time.
Monday, Inside Baseball settles the '84 season score. Join George Grant for a Major League review of another year in the bigs. Then preview the upcoming Rams-Falcons game on NFL's Monday night matchup. It's a last look at Atlanta's chances to lock out L.A. Later, Auto Racing 84 picks up the pace as CCA Rabbits tear up the track in a battle for the Bilstein Cup. Your driving force delivers the hair-raising thrills. It's all Monday on ESPN.
ESPN continues its outstanding college football schedule for 1984. Thursday, October 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 5 here on the West Coast. It's the BYU-New Mexico game.
Well, BYU and, of course, head coach Lavelle Edwards, they have really visions of grandeur for 1984. They are making a quest, they hope, to be at least ranked in the top 3 or 4 by the season's end. Who knows, maybe if they're the only undefeated team, they do have a shot at the mythical national championship. But they hope to go to a major bowl this year, and so far, so good. They had that close call against Hawaii a few weeks ago, but they may be en route to their finest season ever.
That'll be live on Thursday, October 25th at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We're bringing you live coverage on this beautiful afternoon in Central California of the Quinn's Cooler 300-kilometer race for Indy cars. And Mario Andretti continues to lead with Bobby Rahal still running in second spot. Danny Sullivan is third, followed by Jeff Brabham and Michael Andretti. 16 out of 98 laps have been completed.
And also recall that just a few laps ago, Mr. Andretti was working on an approximate 5-second lead, and that 5-second lead is now 5 ticks of the watch, but it's like tenths of a second. 5/10 of a second as Rahal has caught Mario Andretti.
Matter of fact, our data speed scoring up here in the booth indicates that it is 0.9 seconds now, less than a second separation between Rahal and Mario Andretti. Running in 6th position is Al Unser Sr. 7th spot is Al Unser Jr. In 8th position is Roberto Guerrero. 9th is Bruno Giacomelli. And in 10th place is Ed Pym in car number 98.
Now, we have completed 17 laps. This race will go 98, 17 down. The entirety of the race will be 98 laps. And remember, seldom is it that you have an overall yellow flag in an IndyCar race. So unlike on an oval, when you can run very hard in the early stages of the race, build up a big lead and have it wiped out, usually this means something on a road course. You build up this 20, 30-second lead over the rest of the field, and it really takes the pressure off for the pit stops. We anticipate 2 stops. It's pretty unlikely that anybody can go the distance on just 1 stop. So this big lead that Rahal, running second, and Andretti, running in third, are building up is very important. Again, as we mentioned, because of the points, very important for Mario.
Bobby Rahal now right up on the back wing of Mario Andretti. Less than a second separation. It's less than a half second right now, as a matter of fact. It's Lola with Andretti and March with Bobby Rahal. Headed to the corkscrew once again. Braking hard here. Going down to about 20 or 30 miles an hour. Going into the corkscrew and then standing on the gas heavily as they move downhill toward turn number 7.
The average speed, by the way, for the race after 10 laps was about 119 miles an hour. They qualified, at least Mario did, at almost 127 miles per hour, so everything seems to be pretty much on schedule. The attrition rate has been very solid to this point. We've only had one car really look like he's going to drop out of the race. That's Peter Kuhn in the number 59 machine, and of course Pete Halsmer had to crash in the long sweeping turns 2 and 3, but other than that, all the other top contenders remain out on the pit course. By the way, in third place, Sullivan is now slipped almost 17 seconds back.
Tom Sneva is not running up front by any means. He is in 14th position, and there are 17 cars on the lead lap at this point. Tom Sneva has his work cut out for him here today.
Matter of fact, Bob, if Andretti wins this race and leads the most laps, 14 will spell doom for the points championship for Tom Sneva.
There are 4 ways that Andretti can clinch the driving championship this afternoon. There are 4 ways. First of all, if Mario... First of all, we'll tell you how the point system is broken down. You get 2 bonus points, 1 for the pole position, 1 for leading the most laps. Mario has already won the pole and has led every lap so far. Now, as far as the combinations are concerned, if Andretti wins all 22 points, that is the race and both bonus points, and Sneva finishes 9th or lower, Andretti wins. If he wins 21 points, that is the race and the pole position, and Sneva finishes 10th or lower, Mario also wins the driving championship. If he just wins the race and Tom Sneva finishes 11th or lower, Andretti clinches it. And finally, Mario can finish as low as 2nd and the 2 bonus points, and Sneva earns no points. That also will give Mario Andretti the 1984 crown.
Okay, now I want to see you do that without your notes, buddy.
Well, it's really pretty simple to understand because Mario has to have a 22-point he has to have a 22-point lead going into the last race of the year at Las Vegas. Because if Mario doesn't win any points in Vegas and Tom wins all of them, they finish tied. Mario still has a national championship because he won more races this year. There is Bobby Rahal, who has passed Mario Andretti, and Sneva is going to be lapped in the next couple of cars.
Bobby Rahal has finally climbed yet another mountain. There are lots of mountains on this race course, and by the time you do 98 laps, I'll tell you, you've seen almost as much blue sky as you have pavement. And the other mountain that Rahal has just gotten around is Mario Andretti. And Rahal is really putting distance between himself and Mario Andretti quite rapidly. So Bobby Rahal doing quite well here now. Here comes Rahal out of turn number 8, turn number 9. He is approaching the pit area, and Tom Sneva passed by this very spot about 5 or 6 seconds ago. So Rahal's moving up. Here's the front stretch. Pits are on Rahal's left. The Nissan bridge leading into turn number 1, which is just a kink. Now turn number 2. Now you start accelerating up to the gears, approaching almost 175 miles an hour.
Down to the pit area. Here's Gary Lee.
The drivers characterize this track as being fun to race on and challenging, but the pit area and the pit entrance are also a challenge. They come into the pit area off turn 8, down this access road where they're downshifting hard on the brakes to first gear and a very tight left-hand turn. Then for some of the drivers, they actually accelerate through the pit area to their given pit. Could mean for a very, very interesting traffic pattern. Speaking of pit stops, we're anticipating Bobby Rahal to stop about lap 38. And as far as Mario Andretti, Darrell Soppy, his team manager, said we're not sure when we're stopping. And for third place, Danny Sullivan, somewhere between lap 24 and 36.
We're already at lap 22, Gary, so Danny Sullivan could be coming in for his routine pit stop in the next couple of laps. By the way, the car that came in while Gary was doing the description of the pit entrance was the number 82 car that has had several drivers this year, now being handled by Jim Crawford. That's the H&R Racing March car number 82.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the pit stops. They'll be pitting for fuel unless you got a tire problem or a very long, complete yellow. That is really good. Tire racing. Here's how it sets up. The cars can normally go between 70 and 80 miles. On this track, that means between laps 37 and 42. We have completed 23 laps. Predictable stop between 37 and 42. If somebody can go further than that, they're a genius.
At Laguna Seca, Bobby Rahal is the leader, and we will be back with more in just a moment. Jenkins, Larry Nuber, and Gary Lee back at Laguna Seca Raceway, Monterey, California, where Bobby Rahal is the leader, and he is just about to lap Tom Sneva. We'll keep our eye on the situation and see if he can lap him. They move uphill now to turn number 5. And it could be that he'll attempt the pass in the corkscrew. We'll watch the situation here. No, Bobby plays it pretty safe. Lets Tom go through. There has a car that has been spun, though. It looks like Howdy Holmes, which is Tom Sneva's teammate. He has spun in the corkscrew. Bobby Rahal still looking for the chance to put a lap on Tom Sneva. There is Howdy Holmes' car, and the corner workers and the kart crew members are getting that car off the track. Meanwhile, Bruno Giacomelli in the number 40 Old Milwaukee Patrick March is in for what appears to be a routine pit stop.
Giacomelli stopped, and it is lap 25. It's going to be real difficult for him to go the rest of this way on just one more stop. That may be just a bit early unless he can get some spectacular mileage now on one of the loads he's got coming up.
Bruno was one of the faster practicers here when we began practice on Friday afternoon. He was third quickest in the first practice session, but of course qualified for this race in 7th position, qualifying at an average speed of 122.721 miles an hour.
Really a pretty impressive performance because Giacomelli had not sat in a race car since June. So needless to say, all of his years in Formula One racing certainly held him in good stead here this week.
Well, there are all kinds of things that you can do to a race car to try to get a few more extra miles an hour out of it. Does Bobby Rahal's nose piece hold a secret? Here's Larry.
Since their inception about 7 or 8 years ago, the trademark of the nose cone of the March chassis has been a torpedo shape. That long cylindrical shape similar to a bullet actually dates back to a philosophy of designing race cars in the 1930s. Well, the idea obviously behind the bullet shape is that the air would pass uniformly around all 4 sides and goes to the back of the race car smoothly. But at least one team, the Bobby Rahal team with Steve Horn as crew chief, has their own philosophy about the nose cone. They have shaved off the bottom of theirs. It's flat. Now, the primary reason for this flat nose cone is to run the car lower to the racetrack. The philosophy being there that the lower you can get the car to the speedway, the more the overall ground effects of the machine will take place. Jim Truman's team is the only team using this approach to the nose cone. You know, you wonder, in 1986, the rules will say that the entirety of the bottom of the cars will have to be flat bottom. Is this the first step on that direction? Well, Steve Horn says, no, not exactly. It's not really the same application. Then again, you wonder. They're the only team doing it, and they've had pretty good success and improved lap times with the flat bottom nose cone.
They had very good success at Phoenix last weekend when Bobby Rahal won, and he is leading here at Laguna Seca with 28 laps completed, and he has racked up a 5.8-second lead over Mario Andretti. Third position still remains Danny Sullivan, then Jeff Brabham and Michael Andretti, and 6th spot is Alonso Sr., and Alonso Jr. is running at 8th. Danny Ungaius has spun just out of turn number 7 coming down the hill.
Well, Ungaius was not running on the lead lap. He had already been lapped. He was below 15th position, and coming down the bottom of the hill out of the corkscrew, he has spun off to what amounts to the inside of the course here.
All right, let's go down to Gary Lee in the pit area once again, who's with Jim Truman, the owner of Bobby Rahal's car.
Jim, you've shown incredible fuel mileage this season. How long do you think you'll stay out?
Well, we'll be out till 38 or so anyway. We're getting a little over 2 miles per gallon, so that's fine.
Obviously, the car is handling okay for Bobby.
It appears to be handling very well. Looks like Mario's coming in a little early. They must have started late.
Will you risk the situation we saw you in San Air when you stayed out maybe a lap or two too long?
No, we're not going to stretch it at all. We have no reason to on this track.
Obviously, the team is still pumped up after last weekend.
Well, I think we're the only ones that have a chance in 2 in a row.
Right. A smiling Jim Truman.
Well, Tom Sneva is already a lap down to the leader, Bobby Rahal, and now Mario Andretti is finding an opportunity to pass Tom Sneva and put Tom a lap down. They move through corner number 8, set up for the hairpin, and Mario sneaks to the inside of Tom Sneva going into the hairpin, makes the pass, and Sneva falls a lap down to Mario.
You know, I venture to guess that Jim Truman is probably right about his guess. They're the only ones with a chance to win 2 in a row. Seems how he won the last one. It kind of reduces the odds, doesn't it? And by the way, one other comment on what Jim was saying. There's Mario Andretti, of course, a face recognizable around the world. What he meant by, I think Andretti may have started light. Even though you need 3 loads of fuel to run this race, that's your guess. It didn't have to be 3 full loads. It was not 3 complete loads. So you could have started with a less than full tank, which means you might stop, you might pit a little earlier than the rest of the field for your first pit stop.
There are 11 cars on the lead lap at this point, and there are 5 cars out of the race. Pete Halsmer, Dick Ferguson, Jacques Villeneuve, Peter Kuhn, and Jim Crawford. Those 5 cars are listed as out of the race, but the only
Andretti is coming in, Bob. Here comes Mario.
Only accident has been Pete Halsmer's, and he was not injured. Mario Andretti stops in his pit area, and the crew goes to work on the Lola.
Well, Mario Andretti stops on lap 31. The last time this crew was going to work, they were making emergency repairs. Mario had had a conflagration on the racetrack with Gordy Johncock. Service appeared to be incredibly normal in that particular stop. He's back out on the speedway, underway. And Andretti is the first of the leaders to stop. He was in the pits for about 15.5 seconds, so pretty efficient in terms of time stopped in the pit area.
So we'll see how long Bobby Rahal can stay out now past Mario Andretti's stop. Danny Engaias made his way into the pit area from having stalled up near turn number 7. They've refueled that car, gotten it started again, and Danny Engaias goes back into the hunt. And Danny Engaias, by the way, has been having very good finishes in the IndyCar circuit. He has a 3rd place finish at Michigan earlier this year.
Here comes that battle for 4th and 5th. They're still together on the racetrack. Remember the early laps when Michael Andretti was just flogging that Electrolux Craco number 99 in an effort to get around his teammate Jeff Brabham with a flogging his stop, but he never did get by. Brabham runs in 4th, and this was before the pit stops. This was assuming Andretti on pace is in 2nd. Sullivan 3rd, Brabham 4th, Michael Andretti 5th. Now here are the other people on the lead lap. Al Unser Sr., Al Unser Jr., Roberto Guerrero, Bruno Giacomelli, Ted Kim, Mike Thackwell, Howdy Holmes, and John Hall Jr.
The qualifying speeds here were unbelievable compared to last year. This first 16 qualifiers broke the previous track record, which was held by Teo Fabi at 120.169. There is Roberto Guerrero, who is in for a pit stop. Looks like it's pretty routine. A quick stop for Roberto. And the Colombian, who finished 2nd at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, goes back out into the race.
Boy, would he like to do well here, Bob. He has just had such horrible luck in the last half of the season. Guerrero started out with that great 2nd place finish at Indianapolis earlier in the season, but since that time, it has just tailed off miserably. As a matter of fact, Roberto has failed to finish the last 5 races in a row, a time during which his best finish was a 15th, and everything else was in the bottom 25 of the field.
And here's another one of those drivers who was on the lead lap making a stop. This is Al Unser Sr. You'll notice that the paint job is a little different on this car. It was wrecked last weekend. They have eliminated the white that used to cover this car, and it's an all-red car now. Al Unser Sr. stands on the gas and moves slowly out of the pit area. Also anticipating a stop very soon by Danny Sullivan and the Shearson team.
Boy, I'll tell you, the lighter in weight that Bobby Rahal's car gets. And here comes Danny Sullivan. We'll pick up on that story in a minute. Here comes the man running in 3rd position, one of the pre-race favorites.
Danny Sullivan started this race in 3rd position. And the crew going to work. The fuel is being put in. They're changing rubber on the right side of the car. It's already been in the pits 9 seconds. The clock continues to tick off, and now they move to the left side of the car and replace the left front tire. The fuel is in, the tires have been changed, and in just a little bit less than 20 seconds, Danny Sullivan goes back out onto the race course.
Michael Andretti comes in, and we hear that Bobby Rahal is also en route.
Rahal is in. Here's Gary Lee.
Rahal is indeed in. They're changing 3 tires. Only the left front will remain on. Topping off the 40 gallons is Bobby Rahal, boasting that we have some fumes in the cockpit. Right now, just over 16 seconds.
Standing on the accelerator as he moves out of the pit area and goes back out onto the race course, Bobby Rahal relinquishes the lead. Mario is just now getting into the hairpin.
Well, he did get out in front of Andretti, Bob. I don't know the status right now of the other people who are on the lead lap, but I think Rahal's going to get away with this somehow and come out on top, despite the fact that he has stopped. The time it is to say that he was stopped dead in the pit was 7 seconds slower, but there's Mario. Bobby has already gone by. So Rahal apparently did just a little better job on the racetrack while he was slowing down, getting into the pits.
Well, we'll keep our eye on that situation and see how our scorers determine it. There is Mike Thakwell, the young driver who's been over in Europe competing all season in his first IndyCar race ever, driving for Roger Penske, the Pennzoil Z7. The car that Johnny Rutherford has campaigned the last couple of races, and in fact set the world record for a qualifying run at Michigan International Raceway, 215 miles an hour. It's lap 35, and Mike Thakwell has pitted and now is back onto the track.
35 laps down. We're more than 1/3 of the way through the race. Now all the leaders have made their first pit stops. There'll be one more to go.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the Twin Coolers 300-kilometer IndyCar race from Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California, after these messages. Football on ESPN, Saturday, October 27th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific Time, live and in stereo. It's Penn State against West Virginia. These two Eastern teams meeting in the mountains of West Virginia. Join us Saturday, October 27th. On ESPN.
Certainly no love lost between those two neighboring states. Penn State, a team that West Virginia's been trying to beat for a number of years. There are those who say that West Virginia's had the better team twice in the last 5 or 6 years, but they still can't get by the Nittany Lions.
We are on lap number 38 of this 98-lap race, and Bobby Rahal is the leader. Here he is lapping a slower car, braking now, entering the hairpin. Bobby Rahal has a 7.7-second lead on Mario Andretti and about a 26-second lead on third place, Bobby Rahal.
I tell you, that was a puzzle because we had to watch right on both of those cars as they made their pit stops, so I know the times were accurate. But Rahal doing a superb job, apparently, of just racing into the pits, getting on the throttle, getting up through the gears rapidly as he exited from the pit area. And it really paid off because despite the fact, again, that he had been stopped 7 seconds longer than Mario, he comes out on top. But at this point, given all the things that are up for grabs for this race, this season, Andretti's got to be real comfortable right now as to where he is. Road courses are tough. The attrition rate sometimes gets very high the last half of a race. So this race is a long ways from over. We are at lap number 39. Again, we'll go 98. And we've got at least one more series of pit stops to go.
There is Danny Sullivan from Louisville, Kentucky, the former Formula One driver who has been very successful this year on the PPG IndyCar trail. Sullivan has won on 3 different occasions. He was the winner at Cleveland, he was the winner at Pocono, and also won Mid-Ohio. 2 road course victories and 1 oval victory for Danny Sullivan.
He's also a former waiter in a New York City restaurant. He's had a great year, without a doubt. This is the most improved team in all of IndyCar racing, although I suppose there are those who might vote for the Newman-Haas-Mario Andretti combination. But Sullivan right now is ranked 5th in terms of the number of laps led. He is 9th in terms of the number of miles completed. And very importantly, he is the 3rd leading money winner, having accumulated well over $400,000 in earnings in 1984.
Sullivan's 3rd win did come at Saint Air in Montreal, not at Mid-Ohio. Well, there's always a question as, what are your plans for next year? And that is the question that we ask Danny Sullivan.
If I go into the list of what the possibility, you know, I'm just, nothing's done. I've talked to a few people, including Doug Scherson and Domino's Pizza, and nothing's decided, so there's no comment yet.
One of many drivers who are not quite certain if they'll be driving Indy cars next year, and if they do, for whom they will be driving.
Bob, I'll tell you, I really believe that red, white, and blue of Domino's, Doug Shearson and Danny Sullivan, I really think they are still each other's best options, and that deal may be a little closer than what Danny is indicating.
Little father-son competition out there on the racetrack. Al Unser Jr., and he's right ahead of his father, Al Unser Sr. Now, Al Unser Jr.'s future is pretty certain for 1985. He has announced that he's going to sign with Lotus and drive a Lotus-prepared car on the IndyCar circuit next year.
That's 7th and 8th, so they're showing a little bit of battle there for position on the racetrack.
While Al Unser Jr. is pretty set up for 1985, there is some uncertainty concerning the future of his father, Al Unser Sr. A lot of speculation, in fact, some speculation even that Al Unser Sr. might retire. We heard that a couple of races ago, but apparently there is very little, if any, truth to that rumor. As a matter of fact, Al Unser Sr. insists that he is not retiring from the competition. There is Al Unser Jr., the number 7 Coors Silver Bullet.
Well, it'll be an interesting experiment next year. You know, Leger came out of the Formula 1 ranks to come to IndyCar racing this year. For those of you who are not familiar with it, they had a moderate level of success in Formula 1 racing before they came to Indianapolis, and the project was a total disaster. They never even got up to a competitive speed. Kevin Kogan was going to be a part of it, and the cars were parked even by the 15th of the month of May at Indianapolis. Lotus comes in, of course, with greater credentials, not to mention the fact experience at Indianapolis.
Well, we went to Al Unser Jr. to try to find out what the plans of his father are for 1985.
Now, earlier this season, we talked about the rumor that you were going to take over the second car in the Penske stable, and your old man was going to be out of a ride, and you said no, you wouldn't do that except for money, and he wouldn't comment on it. He's not going to comment on anything right now. So what's Papa Unser going to do next season?
I don't know. Dad hasn't said anything to me about what he's going to do. So the way I see it, he's got a super team. He's super happy with Roger Penske. I see him staying with Roger Penske. You know, but that's only a guess because he hadn't said nothing to me.
Well, of course, Rick Mears is going to be back with Roger Penske next year after Rick recuperates from the injury suffered up in Canada. And it could very well be Al Unser Sr. is the second driver in the Penske stable next year. We'll just have to wait and see.
I think I would simply ditto my remarks about Danny Sullivan. I'd say Miller, Penske, and Sr. right now certainly their best options. One thing for sure, Al Unser Sr. will not be driving a sprint car in 1985. We'll put that rumor to rest right now.
While we're mentioning Rick Mears, and we wish him the best as he has been released from the hospital after suffering those leg and foot injuries at Montreal San Air Speedway. Derek Daly is still in the hospital, but we understand that he was up for the first time a couple of days ago and walking around, so we wish Derek the very best in his recuperation. And there are several drivers who have not been on the IndyCar circuit since their injuries earlier this year. Michael Chandler is one of those who was injured in Indianapolis, but he is here this weekend and looking very fit, and so is Kevin Kogan.
Al Unser Jr. continues to chase a number of people running in the top 10, including that guy right there. And right now, there are about 20 people chasing this guy. That's Bobby Rahal. He's got a very healthy lead right now. Andretti is second and struggling to keep up with everybody, rather struggling to keep up with Rahal.
We are nearing the halfway point of this 98-lap race. We have completed 45 with Bobby Rahal still the leader. Now ESPN and Championship Auto Racing teams present a track fact.
We have seen flames shoot out of a turbocharger during the running of a race, obviously a malfunctioning unit, but they're pretty hot things anyway. When you take the bonnet off of a race car, the most dominant characteristic of the turbocharger assembly is this huge piece of tinfoil. What that is heavy-duty insulation. The reason being you have to protect the bodywork from the turbocharger, which normally operates at about 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit.
In the beautiful mountains of Central California Laguna Seca Raceway. We're glad you could join us. We hope you'll be right back for more of the Quinn's Cooler 300.
It's called Grand Am.
Grand Am.
It's a true driver's coupe, and it's all new.
Grand Am.
But better than that, it's from Pontiac.
Grand Am.
And you know what that means.
We build excitement. Pontiac.
Hi, I'm Tom Watson, and here's a tip that'll help you sink more putts. Keep the angle of your left elbow constant throughout your stroke. It will make your putting more consistent. And here's another tip that will help make your golf more enjoyable. Subscribe to Golf Digest. Golf Digest can help any player who wants to get more fun out of golf, starting with playing editors like Watson and Nicholas, who tell you how they play the game, and the teachers at the world-famous Golf Digest instruction schools who show you how you can play better. You'll get features on the Pro Tours, the latest in golf equipment, and the monthly tournament and TV guide.
Order a full year of Golf Digest for only $9.97, more than half off the cover price. And you'll also get free this special booklet, Tom Watson's Putting Secrets, 48 pages of stroke-saving advice. Call toll-free 800-372-3000. Call now, 800-372-3000.
Remember, watch the elbow and read Golf Digest every month.
You're looking at America's favorite work clothes. More men wear Dickies work sets than any other. Women, too. From pants to coveralls. From shirts to shoes to underwear. From gloves to socks to outerwear. Dickies makes everything in work clothes. But who says you have to work in them?
Tomorrow, a pack of rabbits goes on the run for the SCCA Bill Stein Cup. Find out who takes the checkered flag tomorrow on ESPN.
It's in the area surrounding Monterey, California. And also surrounding Monterey, California, Laguna Seca Raceway. And we're here for the Quinn's Cooler 300 IndyCar race, the next to the last stop for the CART PPG IndyCars. And with 48 laps to go, Bobby Rahal continues to be the leader. I mentioned a few minutes ago that there were some race drivers that we haven't seen for a while that have showed up out here. And one of them is Michael Chandler, who was injured rather badly at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the month of May. But Mike is with us up here in the broadcast booth, and it's awfully glad to see you up and around, Mike.
Thank you very much, Bob. It feels a lot of fun to be at my first event in 6 months.
We talked earlier about what you've been doing and what you can't do as far as taking a chance on getting your head bumped again.
Well, the doctors do want me to be very, very careful and not bump my head again, but I have been enjoying all my sports on a regular basis for 3 months.
Surfing with a helmet, I guess, huh?
Yes, I have learned to surf with a helmet, and I would like to be out there racing against my friends today, but I did not bring my driving suit and my helmet on purpose. Then I could not be in a car today.
Tempted.
Now, Mike, you told us earlier this week that you're looking at the possibility of a lot of options, maybe another division other than Indianapolis cars next year, at least to get kind of back into the swing of things.
Well, I do really enjoy Indy cars, and I felt I never really got a fair shake of the stick, but I am quite interested in Trans Am cars since they do have a roof and roll cages. I figured...
A lot of us can relate to that, Mike.
Thank you. No, I'm making no decisions right now and just going to see what 1985 holds for Michael Chandler.
Mike, what about this racetrack? Now, this is pretty close to home, at least for you being a Californian. What do you think is the key to really getting around here well? You got the corkscrew, you got the hairpin, turns 2 and 3, which are so fast. Where's the key here?
Well, obviously the fast people here today are contemplating problems with the traffic. This is a very, very narrow racetrack. There's not very many places to pass, and you've got to really anticipate your passes.
By the way,
go ahead, Bob.
We're watching the battle for 5th and 6th position here between Jeff Brabham and Al Unser Jr.
And we are now halfway in this race. Remember, the total will be 98 laps. We've just gone by 49. And Mike's point is a good one because we mentioned earlier the attrition has not been severe. And the leaders are in heavy traffic now, and they seem to be encountering somebody new every half lap. And we got a report from our spotters that Howdy Holmes, Tom Sneva's teammate, not Tom Sneva, Howdy Holmes has pulled off the course. He was in trouble earlier, if you remember seeing him stop at the base of the corkscrew.
Michael, before we let you go, who looks strongest out there to you?
Oh, it's hard to say. I'm hoping the points race will become a little closer so that I can be a spectator at Vegas. And for the first time in 26 years, I plan to do a little bit of gambling for the first time ever.
I'll tell you, a race driver saying I'm going to gamble for the first time,
that's scary, very scary.
Thank you, Mike, and good luck to you. We appreciate you stopping up in the booth.
Thank you very much, Bob and Larry. I appreciate it.
53 laps have now been completed, and we're watching again this battle for 5th and 6th position. Jeff Brabham and Al Unser Jr. Running in first spot is Bobby Rahal. Second is Mario Andretti. Third, Danny Sullivan. And fourth is Michael Andretti. And then this battle for 5th and 6th. They go into the corkscrew once again.
Now, Jeff Brabham is having a very good race. Jeffrey is in the number, what'd you say that was, Bob? 5th and 6th we're going after right here. Brabham having a good day. Remember at the top of the show, we told you there are a lot of people who wanted to perform well here in the last couple races because things are up for grabs for 1985. There's lots of folks that don't have homes. There's a lot of speculation and innuendo. And Brabham is one of those people who is on the bubble, so to speak. You just don't know what's going to happen with Jeff Brabham for next year. A lot of these people who are indefinites right now are very outstanding drivers. Jeff Brabham has had one of the finest seasons of anybody in IndyCar racing on the road courses this year, and another pretty solid road racer is that guy right there, Bob.
John Paul Jr., who is in the Provimi field car this race. We talked about him at the beginning of the program and how they gave this ride to him pretty much because they think very sincerely that he saved the life of Derek Daly by T-boning Daly and pushing him away from the wall down to the infield. John Paul Jr., a lot of speculation about who he will be driving for next year. He has not been a regular this year. He did compete at Long Beach in the first race and did compete at Phoenix in the most recent race. And here is Danny Sullivan in the pits. The third place runner is in for what I would call an unscheduled pit stop.
Yeah, definitely, Bob. It's only lap number 55. Everybody stopped routinely between 35 and 40. You would expect the next series of stops between 74 and 84. So coming in on lap 53, that means that it's definitely not routine. Now we also hear that he was turning the motor on and off during the last lap of the course, or driving on and off course is the note that we now get. So Sullivan had slowed, something gone wrong with the race car, and it looks like this Lola is not going to pick up number 4 Laguna Seca this weekend.
He has won 3 times, most recently at Montreal, but since then, things have not been going particularly well. He finished 9th at Michigan in the 200 and was 20th last week at Phoenix and was one of those involved in the 4-car accident on the main straightaway last week in the Phoenix. 56 laps have been completed. We will be back with more of the Quinn Spooler 300 from Laguna Seca right after we take this break.
Racing. From the inside, no one covers it like Auto Week. Auto Week makes you an insider at the world's great race circuits every week. In the pits, behind the scenes, even in the cockpit with racing driver columnists in Formula One, NASCAR, and kart. Inside coverage just days after the race. And Auto Week puts you inside the world's most exciting cars, right behind the wheel. Auto Week takes you inside the whole automotive scene. Personalities, great cars of the past, columnists with inside scuttlebutt. Let Auto Week make you an insider, too. Call for a year's subscription to Auto Week. 52 issues at the basic price of $23. Just 44 cents an issue. Call 1-800-554-2828 and get this $10 Auto Week fender cover absolutely free. Call right now, 1-800-554-2828. Let Auto Week make you an insider, too.
Hi, I'm Al Unser. Maybe I don't make it to the winner's circle every race, but you fans can. In the Kart Winner's Circle Club, at some tracks you'll get behind the scene and even talk with your favorite driver. At home, you'll receive the official Kart newsletter, the 200-page media guide, free gifts, and more. A year in our club costs only $25. For how to join, write P.O. Box 150, Pontiac, Michigan, 48056. Come on, join me in the Winner's Circle Club.
What little idiosyncrasy might you have?
In Indy cars, I only get in the car from the left side.
One thing for sure I'm not afraid to say is I always enter the car from the left side. I never in my life, in my career, entered a race car from the right side or exited.
Oh, probably qualifying 13th or anything having to do with that number. But I know someone else that has a problem with signing autographs with a green pen, but we won't mention his name.
Does he live in Nazareth?
Very close to it, yeah.
No, not really. I don't have too much of anything. We just go out and just hopefully we wake up in a good mood in the morning. That pretty much tells how the day's going to go.
Yes, but what do you do the night before to get in a good mood when you wake up?
I don't know. I don't think my wife would want to say.
What does Tom Sneva do?
Well, you know, I'm not really into that stuff, but this year it appears to be a situation where I'm trying to make the whole season on one pair of shoestrings.
And it looks like that Tom could be happy when this season is over. Those shoestrings are just about gone, it appears.
I guess if I had a superstition for a good day, it would be clean clothes and breakfast. That would make me feel pretty good.
That's a pretty good idea. Bobby Rahal leads this 300-kilometer race, and he is 13 and a half seconds ahead of Mario Andretti. Howdy Holmes is out of the race. Here's Gary Lee.
Howdy, on a big road course, it's a long walk back to the pit area. What happened?
Well, the throttle stuck there and going into 9, but I spun about 18 laps earlier and got a bunch of dirt in the car. What I think happened was somehow worked its way into the throttle linkage, and going into 9 here it stuck and just went straight off. Luckily there was an escape road there, and luckily it wasn't some other place. Could have been a lot worse.
One more race this season than what's in store in '85.
The 1985 PPG IndyCar World Series.
With?
Can't tell you.
Okay, there's the answer from Howdy Holmes.
Stackwell is in the pits also. Mike Stackwell for a second time this afternoon. You know, we've had other problems with throttle sticking. Ken Atchison was assigned to the Forsythe Skull Bandit car, and he wrecked it early in the practice session, and the car was withdrawn, but he claimed throttle stuck on that car also.
And Bob, we might also add that Corrado Fabi has not lost the ride, or wasn't a reason they were not interested in Corrado. Corrado, Teo, and sisters Christina's father passed away this week, and now Mike Thackwell, as we were watching this action in the pits, has been told by the crew that looks like their problems may be terminal. But again, Corrado Fabi still has the ride, would have been in it this week, but it was a death in the family.
So Mike Thackwell climbs out of the car as Danny Sullivan is out on the racetrack. Sullivan has dropped a lap down to the field. He is unofficially in 9th position right now, so Sullivan, who was running 3rd, has dropped tonight because of that most recent pit stop.
And Bob, some other pit notes, just kind of a variety of pieces of information that are filtering to us. There was a report of oil coming from Mike Thackwell's car. It was on the front stretch. They even put out the oil flag. Michael Andretti's car, the Electrolux Craco number 99, appears to have a right front wing that is slightly bent. He has not slowed dramatically, but certainly that's going to have an effect. There is Michael on the screen, following right behind Sullivan. You can just barely see the trained eye, that is, as you and I have, right? That Michael Andretti's right front wing is just a tad askew and not giving him the proper downforce. Also, Al Unser Sr.'s car was being observed. Something was vibrating in the front end. Apparently was visible to some of the observers around the racetrack. And Sullivan is coming back in the pits again.
And you can see how the front wing on Michael Andretti's car is not in the correct position, but it isn't slowing him down very much. He's still running in 3rd spot, although he's about 45 seconds behind the leader, Bobby Rahal. We have 5 cars on the lead lap. Those 5 cars are Rahal, Andretti, Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., and Jeff Rappel. Those cars, the only ones on the lead lap.
And Bob, Rahal is superior. He is pulling away many laps, as much as a half a second a lap on Mario. There is Danny Sullivan. We commented, we saw him rolling into the pits, shooting water in the car to neutralize the fuel that sloshes out onto the bodywork. You always top off the fuel when you come in, because you never know, you might get yourself back into a competitive position. You might have an edge on the rest of the field in terms of fuel mileage, at least at that point in the race when you get out of synchronization with everybody else. But Sullivan, I think his chances for victory are just about gone here this weekend.
All right, it appears, although there is a lot of action left and a lot of laps to go, it appears that this driving championship may go down to Las Vegas, the last race of the year. Now, Mario Andretti can clinch the championship if he finishes second where he's running now, but he must pick up both bonus points. He picked up the pole position bonus point, but he must also pick up the most laps led, and he is not doing that. Al Unser Sr. is also in the pits in the Miller time car.
Well, Al comes in earlier than everybody else, but this will be enough. He probably will be able to go the distance. Stopping now, we are at lap number 64. We're only going to go 98. And really, if you can go as many as 39 laps on a load of fuel, you're all set. So a little bit of strategy, and we've seen this pay off in the past. Matter of fact, Roger Penske is the guy who has made it paid off. Here's another veteran team, the Patrick Racing team, with a young, at least in terms of experience in Indy cars, Bruno Giacomelli behind the wheel. They pit early, Bob.
Yeah, he was running in 8th position when he came in for this stop. Giacomelli has only been in one race this year. That was the very first of the year at Long Beach, California, where he finished in 27th position. He was at the Indianapolis 500, but did not make the race. He's driving, though, today in the car that Chip Ganassi drove earlier this year, the old Milwaukee Patrick March.
You know, Bob, it's kind of interesting that a lot of people who entered today's race had their best finish of the year in the very first race of the year at Long Beach. You were talking about Bruno racing here. Listen to the people who had their best finish of the year, first race at Long Beach. Halsmer, who was 8th. Jeff Brabham, who was 2nd. Giacomelli, that was the only race he ran. John Morton, who qualified the jet engineering car today, was 9th at Long Beach. Villeneuve was 6th. 4th place went to Jim Crawford, who qualified the California Cooler car. Eddie Pym was 12th. All those guys, best finish of the year, way back when the snow was still flying in the Midwest.
And a car has gone off course and lost a wheel. That's Randy Lewis in the Weissert car. The right front wheel comes off, and Lewis was going to be out of this race.
He was pointing to the crew members, the safety crew members there, having them lasso that wheel. He was more concerned about the wheel going back onto the track than he was his own condition. You can see the crash was not a serious one, but Robinherd Weissart, number 34, comes to a stop.
All right, 65 laps completed here at Laguna Seca. We'll be back with more of the Quinn's Cooler 300 in just a moment. Where the Quinn's Cooler 300 continues with now 67 laps completed. Mario Andretti running in 2nd position to Bobby Rahal. Mario's about 12 seconds behind, and he just lapped the Patrick car that Bruno Giacomelli is in. We might mention that the other Patrick car is not competing this weekend. Gordon Johncock suffered more broken toes in that incident at Phoenix last week and is not running here this afternoon. Well, we're very honored to have in the broadcast booth with us the part owner of this Budweiser Lola that Mario Andretti is driving this afternoon, Mr. Paul Newman. And Paul, you've got to have a very vested interest in the way that Mario is driving out there, and he appears to be just kind of taking it easy and seeing where the chips fall.
Well, it's a conservative race. We really have to finish this, and to protect our position, we've got a 5-point lead over Thompson, and we're just running a race and then finding out what Tom is doing.
Paul, obviously, you've got a lot of experience at this racetrack because your racing team is headquartered here. We asked Mike Chen a little earlier, what do you think is the real key to getting around Laguna Seca? It's a very fast course, and there are a couple of really tricky parts, but what's the key to going fast around here?
Well, it's the same trick to going fast in any course, really. It's not very bumpy, it's pretty smooth, and the big trick, of course, is coming off turn 9 and getting some ease on a slow turn.
Bobby Rahal is in the pits, by the way, for his 2nd stop of the afternoon. Paul, what can you tell us about the racing team for 1985 drive. We hear a lot of speculation, but what are your plans?
You mean my own plans about driving?
Well, yours and as far as your ownership of an IndyCar team is concerned.
Well, Mario will be driving for us next year, and I don't know about my own driving. That's kind of up for grabs right now.
We hope you'll be back in Trans Am. You've been doing rather well in that division.
Yeah, we're going to stay alive.
Paul Newman, thank you for joining us in the broadcast booth. As we continue to watch Bobby Rahal on the track, 70 laps completed now. And because Rahal pitted, now he is running in second spot, and Mario Andretti has gone into the lead once again. But we're anticipating the second stop by Mario Andretti at any time.
Rahal's stop came on lap 69, well within the window. Everything very routine. Remember, fueling has been a real serious problem for this team at times during 1984, but boy, they've really come on strong in the last half of the season. This has been really, even though there has only been the one win, I believe this has been the most impressive team in the last couple of months, really, in IndyCar racing. They've had a consistent string of top 5 finishes. Bobby Rahal had 4 races in a row when he was in the top 3. He's now running on the crest of 6 in a row in the top 5. And Rahal looks real strong here at Laguna Seca.
Well, here are a couple of familiar faces. Tom Sneva and Mario Andretti running together on the racetrack. We have seen them battle so many times side by side for position, but they are not battling for position here this afternoon. As a matter of fact, Mario puts another lap on Tom Sneva, and he now goes 2 laps down to the leader.
But you know something, Bob? Tom is in 8th position in this race. He has run a solid race. We still got a lot of folks out on the race course. We've got easily 20 cars continuing to run, and Sneva is 8th. So even though he's not threatening for the lead, he's keeping himself in the hunt for the championship.
Battle for 5th position involving Jeff Brabham and Al Unser Sr. And Jeff Brabham has driven a very steady race today. He has been in the top 5 just about all the way through. Now receiving a challenge from Al Unser Sr., but still Jeff running in 5th spot.
Jeff Brabham, there's a guy who is really a very solid racer. He's also extremely intelligent. He fits in very well with the modern era of racing drivers, those who have to perform well not only on the racetrack but also in the boardroom. He's been in a little bit of a warp really the last couple of years. He's very solid. Anybody who needs a good racing driver when they're in a bind, Jeff is one of the people they're willing to turn to, but he hasn't been able to really land a ride of his own that has been putting him in a position to run in the top 5 on a consistent basis. This is really one of his best years in the last 3 years. This Craco team, it's been a good ride for him.
We hope you're enjoying our live broadcast of the Quinn Coolers 300 from Laguna Seca Raceway in Monterey, California. We completed 73 laps, and we'll be right back. Where we continue to watch this battle for 5th position. Jeff Brabham in the number 18 Craco car, and right behind him, Al Unser Sr. in the number 1 Miller Highline. Now, while we were away, we did have a change of leadership because Mario Andretti come in for his pit stop, and Bobby Rahal is back in the lead with about a 7-second lead.
Yeah, Andretti's pit stop, nothing wrong with it. Rahal was just running quicker. He had a nice lead when Mario came in, and Bobby gets away with this pit stops, this series of pit stops, with a comfortable lead.
Well, a year ago at this time, Al Unser Sr. was on top of the world. He was about to become the national driving champion for 1983. But things haven't gone well for him this year. He is currently running in 6th place here in this race today, and he is 8th in the point standings in the CART PPG IndyCar World Series. So the question that we put to Al Unser Sr. was, what happens 3 weeks from today after the last race of the year in Las Vegas?
Last year, as I recall, you picked up that Corvette that you still told us to drive, and you picked up a lot of money from PPG. So at the end of the season, with the racing season behind you, what do you do to unwind? What kind of a vacation do you take, or do you take one?
Well, no, we don't. I would myself rather just continue running, testing, and trying to work out the cars. That's what makes this team, the Miller team and the Penske team, so so great is because they never shut down. You know, Roger is a man that believes in doing your work now, and then let's smile next season if it all works out. So I never unwind. I think that if anybody ever told me, well, you have now 3 months or 2 months, I don't know what I'd do with myself.
Al Unser Sr. from Albuquerque, New Mexico, in 6th position in the Quinn Coolers 300.
You know, that guy right there who just went by, Jeff Brabham, made an interesting comment about the interest that those who are involved in racing, that they have, how and why it is so difficult for a race driver to be entertained by something else other than the sport. He explained it by saying that there's such intensity involved. It activates all of the emotions, everything, the entire rainbow spectrum of emotions that you can imagine are included in automobile racing. And it's so intense that when you get away from the racetrack, frankly, everything else is almost boring.
Well, there are several cars that have dropped out of this race, including Pete Halsmer, who had a crash over in turn number 3. Dick Ferguson is out of the race with a gearbox problem. Jacques Villeneuve is out with a brake rotor problem. The number 59 of Peter Kuhn overheated. 82 is also out of the race. The number 21 of Al Holbert, Danny and Gaius, Howdy Holmes, Randy Lewis, Mike Thackwell, and John Morton have all dropped out of this race. There are 4 cars on the lead lap right now. Besides Bobby Rahal and Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti is also on the lead lap, and so is Al Unser Jr. But there is the leader of this race with 78 laps completed out of 98, Bobby Rahal.
We also had a larger than full field that entered here this week. Among those who made the journey out here to this beautiful part of the country and this magnificent race course who did not qualify: Dennis Firestone in the Pace car. That's the Pace Electronics March machine. Dale Coyne, who crashed while attempting to qualify his Eagle. Steve Hostetler, Stan Fox, and A.J. Watson's car. And we mentioned earlier Kenny Atchison, who was behind the wheel of the Forsyth Skull Bandit. They crashed in practice, but it was mechanical malfunction as a throttle sticking. Right, by the way, right at the top of the hill that Bobby Rahal is at the bottom of right now, entering the corkscrew.
Well, again, we're going to have to say that it looks like at this point, and there are 19 more laps to go, but it looks like that the championship is not going to be decided here this afternoon. Because if Mario Andretti finishes second where he is running right now, he would also have to pick up both bonus points, and he has not led the most laps to this point. It looks like it's going to go to the final race of the year in Las Vegas, Nevada on November 11th, 3 weeks from today. We'll resume our coverage here at Laguna Seca in Monterey in just a moment. Laps to go here at Laguna Seca. Bobby Rahal, the leader. Mario Andretti second. Michael Andretti is third. Al Unser Jr. fourth. And Jeff Brabham is running in 5th position. Well, we invite you to join us on Saturday, November the 23rd at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 12:30 Pacific Time for the Grand Prix of Portugal, the last race of the year for the Formula One cars. It was run earlier today, and you'll want to see all the exciting highlights of that race on Saturday, November 23rd. We can tell you that Niki Lauda is the new world driving champion, although he did not win the race. Alain Prost was the winner. Senna finished third, then Alboreto and DeAngelis. Niki Lauda is the Formula One champion again.
And some other news from the world of racing, and not such happy news, although I'm sure that a lot of Alain Prost fans are sad. I'm a little sad, as a matter of fact. I'd like to see that Frenchman sneak in a world championship somewhere along the line. But the sad news of the day is Sam Ard from the NASCAR Grand National and late model sportsman ranks crashed at Rockingham, North Carolina today in a 5-car accident, and our information is that he is in a hospital in critical condition in intensive care. So we send out our best wishes to Sam and his family, a guy who's soft-spoken, big, tall, lanky fellow who's been around stock car racing for a number of years, was rumored perhaps to be going to Grand National racing next year, but he likes staying around home. He likes staying with the family and being there Monday through Friday, and he turned down the Grand National opportunity, but he was injured this day at Rockingham, North Carolina.
Our prayers and our hopes are with Sam Ard, as he has been critically injured in that race at Rockingham. Here's Bobby Rahal. Now, the car running right ahead of Rahal is Al Unser Jr., who's running 4th, so if Rahal can get past Allenser Jr. here, there will only be 3 cars on the lead lap. Let's go down to Gary Lee once again.
Bob, we were just talking to Daryl Soppy, the crew chief from Mario, and he said simply the march of Bobby Rahal is running better than the Lola of Mario Andretti. At this point, Mario will not stretch it out. He will not make the attempt to close the gap between first and second. A second place at this point is much better in the point standings than trying to overhaul the leader and crashing or tearing up the race car.
That's a very smart philosophy. You know, Mario Andretti has won the pole for all of the road races that have been held in 1984 with today's. But the Lola has not been performing well as far as the race is concerned. The march of Bobby Rahals has pretty much dominated the activity to this point. 84 laps have been completed. We'll be right back with more live coverage. There is Paul Newman watching his driver Mario Andretti currently in second. The leader Bobby Rahal, and second place Mario Andretti is 17.8 seconds. Here's the guy that's running in 9th spot, and if he finishes there, it'll be his best finish of 1984, Ed Pym.
I'll talk about the new wave of Indianapolis car drivers. Here's a guy who's a graduate of an Ivy League university, Cornell. In addition to being interested in auto racing cars, he's also an advocate of racquetball and likes to ride horses. And this team is intact for 1985. Ed Pym says he will be back with Dan Gurney. They will field an Eagle. Those are the plans currently for 1985. And Ed is en route to certainly his finest season as an IndyCar driver, because it is indeed his first full season. A guy who was spectacular in the Super Vs. Those of you who follow the sport know that he has been an employee of Jim Truman for quite a number of years, so he's got ties with other racing teams. He is with the Dan Gurney organization, certainly with the blessings of Jim Truman, who's pretty chock full of a pretty established and successful IndyCar racing driver. They got one race car and they got one mighty fine driver, Bobby Rahal. So Eddie Pym.
Whenever you think of Dan Gurney, you think of the stock block engine. There was a major announcement in auto racing last week that Chevrolet will be developing a new racing engine that will maybe be tested next year, but probably be ready for full try in 1986.
And Bob, it's an engine that will be in design very similar to the Cosworth. It is not a completely new plan. We are told that the at least basic plans for the engine have been on the boards for quite some time. The announcement was made by a vice president from General Motors Corporation, a vice president of Chevrolet. It's a joint business venture between the engine building company, Roger Penske, and Chevrolet. They're going to set up a company that eventually they hope to be profitable, so they're going about this in a very serious way. There was nothing that was held back. It was very definite that it is a Chevrolet involvement, and our colleagues tell us, Bob, that this is one of the major announcements in auto racing, perhaps since World War II.
Michael Andretti is running in 3rd spot. He's about 45 seconds behind the leader. There are 3 cars on the lead lap, and Michael is running in 3rd spot. But for Michael Andretti, it could be another 3rd place finish, and if it is, it will be his 4th 3rd place finish of 1984.
Now, Michael right now is 3rd, by the way, in miles completed. They have found reliability in this machine throughout the season. They've done very well. They started out the season with a house of fire. They looked like they were going to be a contender for the points championship. Raoum Haffenden and Michael Raoum, the crew chief of this team, they had problems in the center part of the season having the car finish, but they've gathered it back up like a running back that takes a big hit. They got back up on their feet, and they've really begun to pick up steam again here in the latter part of the season. They are number 7 in terms of laps led for 1984. They have finished 10 races, and that ties them with Jeff Brabham, Bobby Rahal, and Tom Sneva for the most races finished. And they're 7th on the money winnings list with well over $345,000 already in the coffers.
Just by way of review and what has happened so far with less than 10 laps to go now, we have only had 2 accidents during this race, and neither of them were serious accidents. They involved Pete Halsmer and John Morton. We have a total of 12 cars out of the race. There are 3 cars on the lead lap. The leader is Bobby Rahal. 2nd is Mario Andretti, and 3rd is Michael Andretti. And 4th spot is Allenser Jr., and 5th place is Jeff Brabham. There is the leader, Bobby Rahal, and 90 laps have been completed. So So we'll be back with more of our live coverage as we bring you the Quinn's Cooler 300 from Monterey, California. Back at Laguna Seca Raceway, Monterey, California. We're focusing in now on Roberto Guerrero, who is running in 7th position.
Well, if anybody needed to have a nice finish here in the last part of the season, as we mentioned to you earlier in this broadcast, boy, it was Guerrero, Phil Casey, and crew. Of course, this is the Dan Cotter team that won the Indianapolis 500 with George McNaughty turning the wrenches and Tom Sneva turning the wheel. There's the handsome young Colombian. His wife, Katie, by the way, has spent much of this race up here in the tower with us watching the race, and she's been very enthusiastic. Even though he hasn't threatened for the lead, she knows how important it was for the morale of this team to do well. They've had a good day, but I tell you, the way things are going, they've got to finish this race for them to really go home satisfied, because they've had such miserable luck of recent. But so far, so good. He's well in the top 10, and Roberto is just sailing along.
Got about 4 more laps to go, and since this is our final live broadcast of the 1984 season, there are a lot of people that we want to thank, including some of the guys that work and girls that work behind the scenes for us on every auto race. We thank John Senneff, who is our score on most of our races, Ken Martin and Jenny Nickel, who keep some statistical information and provide some computer readouts for us, and Linda Connell and Kathy Wells, who also work behind the scenes but work very, very hard.
Ken Martin, a man from Lynchburg, Virginia, who really kind of pioneered the computer age of statistics, if you will. John Snyder from White Plains, New York, another fellow who has fed us a lot of information, and someone who's been a very big help to me personally back home in Indianapolis, Dee Oliver. Our scorer out here on the West Coast is always Diane Pridgeon. Mark Sproul has provided us with just invaluable information all throughout the season, and a couple of other people who have helped us in the booth from time to time, Tina Luzier and Leslie Calloway.
94 laps to go, and we are watching John Paul Jr. and Bruno Giacomelli.
Bruno Giacomelli, who got the phone call, somewhat unexpectedly, from Patrick Racing earlier this week. He had met them in Indianapolis and simply left his calling card, the business card, and said, geez, in case you ever want somebody to make your car in the garage go 175 miles an hour, I'm just the man for you. And son of a gun, didn't they call this week? And he's made the most of it. Bruno runs in 9th position right now, and he's going to take home some money back to Italy. And, of course, the Patrick team, some well-earned bucks back to their home base, also in Indianapolis, matter of fact.
As far as the point situation is concerned now, Mario Andretti is running in 2nd spot, and Tom Sneva is running 11th. Mario has not led the most laps, so there is no way that the championship can be clinched this afternoon unless Bobby Rahal has problems here in the next 2 laps. So it looks like it's going to go down to the final race at Las Vegas. Sneva is running in 11th spot right now. And we have 2 cars that have spun, Garza and Ed Pym, and this is in the corkscrew. Looks like that Ed Pym's car did make contact, at least with the tires.
That's at the top of the hill, Bob.
Yeah, right as you go into the corkscrew.
Yeah, Eddie Pym, you can see some damage to the right front. Josele is already out of the car. Ed Pym is now getting... No, Josele is not out. Ed Pym expressing some disapproval to Mr. Garza as the Mexican remains in the car. I think he would like to get back out on the course.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he wants him to get that car going again so we can go downhill and let out on the clutch and start the engine again. And some finger shaking going on between Ed Pym and Jose Garza.
Yeah, both of them are expressing the fact that they feel as though they are #1 in their respective divisions.
Well, here's a replay of what happened.
Well, you can see it gets narrow and it gets tight in the top of the corkscrew, and those of you who are experienced observers, you can make your own call on that.
Miraculously, though, that has been the only incident that we know of in the corkscrew today. Last year there were several of them, but this year that one, and we've only got, in fact, less than 1 lap to go. Bobby Rahal is on the final lap of the race, and he has a 14-second lead on Mario Andretti. We'll follow him up the hill here. He's approaching the corkscrew area. You can see the corner workers displaying the yellow flags, indicating that there are problems up ahead. But Bobby Rahal moves through the corkscrew nicely. Now he's in turn number 6A, headed downhill toward turn number 7, makes the left-hander. Now he's looking toward turn number 8, sweeping around it. Now his major problem is to get the car slowed down for the hairpin. He'll take it very easy going around the hairpin. He's through it. He looks good. He's onto the straightaway. He raises the hand. The checkered flag comes out, and Bobby Rahal wins his second consecutive IndyCar race.
Wow, I'll tell you, what a turnaround in this season by Mitch. There's Jim Truman, the team manager, owner, and the guy who masterminded this entire project, which took the IndyCar circuit by scene a year ago. He was the brightest newcomer then, and they have now backed it up with a good season here in 1984. Bob, we'd also like to make mention of our host, or part of the hosting contingent of this weekend's races in Laguna Seca, the Guild Wineries, who are the makers of the Quinn's Coolers, after whom this race was called, and also Cribari Wines, and there's a tie-in with Bobby Rahal. Last year, Cribari Wines was one of the associate sponsors of Bobby Rahal, and they have been involved in the hosting of this weekend.
Rahal's victory was 13.46 seconds over Mario Andretti. We'll be back with more, including an interview with the winner, Bobby Rahal, after we pause for these messages. We can say it again. All of Bobby Rahal's victories have been before ESPN cameras. This is his 5th career win, his 2nd in a row. Here's Gary Lee with Bobby Rahal.
Bobby, let's talk strategy. You made it look easy after the first pit stop, but did you let Mario set the pace early?
Well, no, not really. You know, he got away from me a little bit in traffic, and I caught him under braking. And I wanted to stay ahead of him. I figured if I could stay ahead of him, he wouldn't, you know, really push me because he had to finish. And the car ran beautifully. I knew we could beat him because I think we were faster in a couple parts. He was a little quicker than I was in a couple parts, but you know, I wasn't working very hard.
2 in a row now. It must be a bit frustrating to not have a shot at the national title.
Well, you know, you can't. That's all water under the dam now, and you can't cry about it next year. You know, we'll try to do as best as we can this year, and we'll go get them next year.
Congratulations once again, a win on ESPN.
Thank you. Yeah, we got to keep this going, don't we?
You bet we do. Thank you very much, Bobby. Congratulations to you on your fine victory here this afternoon on the road course. Among the people we want to thank, the guy who produces our pit reports, Neil Goldberg. He announced his engagement here in Central California this weekend.